Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video we need to crack open another container shipment of popcorn as Reform UK go into full meltdown. Rupert Lowe publicly criticised Nigel Farage's leadership. The party have revealed serious allegations against Lowe, referred him to the police, removed the party whip. Now, if you're thinking the timing all looks a bit suspicious, you would be right. So what do we know? What's going on? But first, for daily political commentary, please hit the subscribe button to stay notified. So it was only yesterday morning that I was saying, despite it being Reform UK's practice to try to get politicians to defect to them rather than going to the bother of winning elections democratically, Reform UK could easily end up losing some of their number two infighting this parliament. You know, I basically said they could end up finding themselves with fewer MPs. I did not expect that to occur later the same day, but here we are. So what happened? Well, in case you've just been out of the loop this week, Rupert Lowe, Reform UK MP, carried out an interview with the Daily Mail in which he criticised Farage's control freakery in trying to micromanage all aspects of the party, explaining that it would be impossible to do this when the party has lots of MPs in the future. Now, it's true enough, I think Lowe was making some very good points, although it was unwise to make these arguments so publicly. The Daily Mail, of course, published the interview with an emphasis on the fact that Elon Musk earlier this year touted Lowe as a potentially suitable successor to Farage. Now, that was bound to draw a response from the Reform leader. He does not welcome challengers. And it did. Not an especially diplomatic response either. Then, yesterday evening, early evening, Reform UK issues a statement jointly from Zia Yusuf, the party chair, and Lee Anderson, the chief whip. In it, they claim that two female employees had made serious bullying accusations against Lowe, including to the parliamentary authorities in at least one case, and that Lowe had personally threatened Yusuf with physical violence on two occasions. They'd appointed a senior lawyer to investigate, but now decided they should go public and refer the matters to the police. Lowe has also lost the party whip, so adopting the Spice Girls strategy here, 5 have become 4. I guess we could thank Reform UK for highlighting mistreatment of women in the workplace this International Women's Day, if it didn't look so suspiciously like an act of revenge. Rupert Lowe put out a long statement refuting the allegations, of course. So what's going on? Well, logically, I think there are 3 possibilities. So let's go over them, then examine the logic and evidence. First, that this is a complete stitch-up in retribution for daring to question the Grand Poobah. Second, that the allegations are genuine, but that daring to question the Grand Poobah is the reason why they've gone public now. Or third, that these allegations are relatively fresh and going public has nothing to do with daring to question the Grand Poobah. It was going to happen at this point anyway. It's all just a coincidence. So what do we know? Well, Rupert Lowe does confirm that a lawyer has been investigating something. So the allegations cannot be new as such. I can't think of any scenario where you explain why they've gone public at that time with the information that isn't related to Lowe's public criticism of Farage. So although Reform UK claim they're looking after their employees, spectacularly unlikely to be the case. I discussed recently how they potentially illegally sacked employees without paying their wages for work done. Now, that last bit, Reform UK don't even deny. So it's not an employer who values their workers. In addition, their public statement gives no reasons for going public now, rather than earlier or later when their own internal investigation had been concluded. There is absolutely nothing that suggests that yesterday evening was the time to go public. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say the timing is almost certainly linked to an act of revenge, not an act of justice. And if that is the case, it reveals something else about Reform UK. It's buggered. If this is the level of Trump-like control that Farage wants over his party, his project is doomed. And in fact, although I say Trump-like, it's not really, because Trump does delegate. You know, if he did win dozens of seats at the next election, he would not be able to instill discipline. As I said yesterday, Reform UK overtly appeals to people who think of themselves as rebels, as thumbing their noses at conventional lines of management. I mean, the other political parties have problems enough with discipline as it is, when they do sort of accept that there should be a chain of command. You know, the remaining 3 MPs may genuinely be happy to go along with whatever Farage says, but he will only find so many sycophants to do his bidding for major expansion of the party. I mean, Trump wields power through fear. Farage won't have that same leverage over his future MPs. And this is also likely to be putting off any would-be defectors who will expect Reform UK to be a place they can speak more freely than in their current political home. But if they are finding that freedom of speech is not what it's cracked up to be in Reform UK, why would they join? It's all too routine to see Labour and Conservative MPs criticising the leader in written articles. You don't see the authors losing the whip and being referred to the police. Reform UK is looking like the party where you don't ever get to say what you think. But then the bigger question, are the allegations credible? Because, you know, these are serious accusations. If they are, then people have been potentially abused at work, and Reform UK are dealing with it as responsible employers. But it's really hard to say. My instant thought was that an internal investigation can be stitched up, but Reform UK have now referred the various matters to the police. That would be a very high stakes game to play if the allegations have no merit. In fact, if the police think that they are being used to settle a grudge, that could invite charges of wasting police time, which can carry a custodial sentence. And as hilarious as it would be for Nigel Farage to end up in prison for making false allegations to the police because he didn't like a Daily Mail interview and losing his seat in the process, I don't think he's that stupid. The fact that the police are being involved suggests to me that the allegations may indeed be real. After all, if they wanted to smear Lowe and sack him, they could have done that based on their own internal investigation. Another thing to consider, Rupert Lowe is very rich. Very rich. He definitely has the money to take legal action if he thinks he is being defamed. He's one of the richest MPs in Parliament. In his own rebuttal on Twitter, he claims that the lawyer was shocked because he spoke to her, he says, and she was shocked that these allegations had been made against him as no evidence had been provided to her. Now, obviously, we can't, or we journalists can't just ask the KC in question if what Lowe is saying is true, you know, confidentiality and all that. But at some point, the police investigation will conclude. If it concludes with Lowe having no case to answer, he will then presumably take his legal action for defamation. Obviously, it would be ruinous for Reform UK, if not Farage personally, if Lowe won that case. And because we're still years away from the election, there's time for even a lengthy legal battle to play out. Although, ironically, it would arguably be worse if the legal battle was playing out while the election was going on. I just think it would be ridiculously risky for Farage to play this game if it was just a manufactured stitch-up. So I think the stitch-up is more likely to be that Reform UK were keeping this quiet, that the allegations are probably... That's not to say that the likelihood is that Rupert Lowe has behaved inappropriately, but I think it is probably likely that there are real allegations and that Reform UK were keeping them quiet until the Daily Mail published that article, at which point Nigel Farage demanded blood. But there's also this little niggle in my head that some of Lowe's claims would presumably be documented. But anyway, Reform UK have just become a smaller force in Parliament. Despite Lowe being unwise in airing his grievances in public in the way he did, he is correct in pointing to the self-defeating nature of Farage's micromanaging style. I mean, even a king delegates. And Farage has made a pretty clear statement that freedom of speech is not tolerated in Reform UK unless it's what Farage wants you to say, which will surely put off any gobshites who might have previously considered the party to be a safe haven for them. And of course, it's going to provide plenty of drama over the coming weeks, months, maybe even years, and then the election itself. Lowe will presumably stand again, but as an independent, providing a three-way split of the right-wing vote. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. If you've enjoyed the video, please click the like button and subscribe for further content. If you'd like to support the channel further, you can click the join button for memberships. Thanks for watching, and until next time, I'll see you later.